back. It is the Vegas Take Sharp and Shapiro. A quick reminder, this show is moving 9 a.m. to noon starting this Monday. And the man we have on the line with us right now, Michael Avenatti, has agreed to come in studio. So that'll be a lot of fun. Also, syndicated right-wing talk show host Steve Sanchez will be in studio as well. So we're going to see a lot of fireworks in studio. That will be a lot of fun. Michael, before we take your some calls here, and by the way, that number is 702-257-5396. If you want to chime in, we have one phone line open. Before we take calls, Michael, we have seen in the media that you have made some statements that you are rethinking a decision in regards to the 2020 race, whether you will put your hat in the ring, so to speak. Can you give us an update on that? What can you tell us?
Well, here's what I will say. I have not completely ruled it out. I've got a lot of other things that I've got to deal with and take care of, a lot of serious issues I've got to face and hopefully resolve favorably. And, you know, if the stars align and depending on what happens relating to the Democratic primary process and, of course, the calendar, you know, I could envision myself possibly getting back in the race. But, you know, I will say that if Joe Biden keeps doing what he's done over the last 3, 4, 5 days, my appetite for doing it, at least for 2020, will be significantly diminished. The only reason that I would possibly get in would be to impact the process and at least toughen up some people and potentially make a run at it myself, because the Democrats are going to need a fighter in order to beat Donald Trump. I don't think you're going to be able to approach this like a traditional presidential campaign, and I think there's an enormous amount at stake for the country. I don't think people have an appreciation really for how much is at stake in 2020.
Can I get a promise from you that if you do decide, and I know it's a big if, but if you do decide that you are going to put your name in the hat to run for president, will you make that announcement on this show?
You know what? I'm not making any promises to anybody right now, but I'm gonna put you at the top of the list. I love you.
That's fair enough, Michael. I appreciate that.
I appreciate that, Michael.
I appreciate that. We love having you on as well.
By the way, before we take callers, I do want to send. You know, he and I have had our issues in the past. We've gone at it publicly and privately. I had some choice words earlier in the show, but I do want to congratulate Tucker Carlson on his endorsement today of his views by David Duke. Bravo, Tucker. I saw that David Duke sent out a tweet where he agreed 100% with what you said, and you know, as the creepy racist anchor, Tucker, you must be so proud. You must be so proud to have David Duke in your corner. Congratulations. Bravo, buddy.
Yeah, that's true. That did just happen.
I could name you
like
an
hour ago.
I could name you one other person that David Duke has praised, and that would be the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Okay, let's take some phone calls at 257-5396. Michael Avenatti joining us on the line. Let's start with, I believe, Mike. Mike is the first one. Mike, you're on with Michael Avenatti. Go ahead.
What's up, Mike?
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Listen, I totally agree with you that Biden is the one to beat Trump. No doubt about it. In fact, I was listening to a reporter from, actually, all places, Egypt, named Susan Moreno, which is she's actually a hooker.
All right. Thank you, Mike, for the phone call. We appreciate that. 257-5396. Let's go to David. David, I believe you are next. David, thank you for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys? Thanks for taking my call.
Sure,
hey, Michael, I have this is a true legal question, and I'm going to give you a little background. When I was a kid, we used to go hunting down by the river, hunting quail and dove with 10 gauge, 12 gauge, 22 gauge shotguns. Okay? A couple years ago, we had a woman here in Las Vegas who drove a Toyota up onto the sidewalk and killed a bunch of people. So my question is this. At what point is a manufacturer of a product meant for one purpose liable for the actions of another person who uses that for a different purpose?
Good question.
To kill people.
Good question, David. Michael, what do you say to that?
Well, that is a good question, and it depends. There's not a bright line rule, David. Frankly, it depends a lot on the facts and the circumstances of exactly what happens. But what I will tell you is this: is that companies are successfully sued in America day in and day out when they know that their product will be used in an unreasonable manner to take lives or injure people. And if they have what is known as notice, that they're on notice, that their product may be used in an unreasonable way, in an unreasonable manner, in order to hurt or inflict harm on people, they're generally liable. And the reason why these gun manufacturers and these ammunition manufacturers need that liability protection is because they know that they cannot make successful arguments in front of a jury like every other business in America. And that should tell people everything they need to know. That means that what they're doing would generally not be acceptable in trials across America. And so what I've advocated for, like I said earlier, is let's just let the gun manufacturers and the ammunition manufacturers play by the same rules as all the other business owners in America, many of whom are probably, very, very entrenched on the right. Why do these folks have to deal with all these rules and laws and regulations, but the gun manufacturers and the ammo manufacturers, they get a free ride because they've got the lobbyists?
If you're just joining us, Michael Avenatti on the line. We're taking your calls at 702.
Hey, good question, by the way.
We're taking your calls at 702-257-5396. That was a good question. So we have a question on social media for Michael. I want to ask you this. We have Steve that asks, if Biden wins the nomination, who do you think should be his vice president?
It's a very interesting question. And I will tell you that when I was traveling the country last year extensively, when I was exploring possibly making a run, and I think I went to about 30 states, 27 states, something like that, a number of events. And I would ask small groups of people routinely, in the event that it was a white male that won the nomination, do you think that he needs to pick a woman or a minority woman as vice president? And I thought that it would be overwhelmingly yes. And what was interesting about this is when I would do these informal polls, I would ask the men that question, and 99% of them would say yes. And then I would ask women that question, and 99% of them would say no, which is completely counterintuitive if you think about it. And I found that to be very, very interesting, and it was uniform or very consistent no matter where I traveled in the United States. I personally believe that if Joe Biden is the nominee, that he absolutely should pick a woman or a minority candidate as vice president.
I agree 100%. Going back to the phone calls at 257-5396, let's go to Evan. Evan, you're on with Michael Avenatti. Go ahead.
Yeah, so there's 2 points I want to make. First point is that if gun manufacturers are responsible for mass shootings, then Boeing is responsible for the September 11th attacks and should also be sued.
Okay, let's let Michael respond to that. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, I actually think that Boeing, I may be wrong about this, but I actually think that Boeing was sued in connection with the September 11th attacks and or maybe the security company that was staffing the airports at that time because they were not TSA. But look, under certain circumstances, manufacturers are responsible for actions that occur with their products, as I mentioned earlier. And if you're right, and if your position's rational, then the gun manufacturers and the ammunition manufacturers shouldn't have any problem living by the same rules and laws that govern Boeing. That's my point. Let's just let the juries decide. I mean, that's what we do with every other business in America. Why do the gun manufacturers and the ammunition manufacturers get a free ride? I don't think that's right.
Evan, did you say you had a second question?
Yes, sir. Let me get to that here.
Okay, Evan, have a nice day. We appreciate the call. 702-257-5396. I believe our next caller is Ryan. Ryan, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. You're on with Michael.
Yeah, the question on the R. Kelly, he was back in the news. I know, Michael, you tweeted like some evidence of his video. You gave it to CNN, and I don't know if they doctored it or not. But can you tell us more what's on that CD that's related to Donald Trump? Is he under a criminal investigation?
Okay, Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I've dealt with both parts of this question at various times. First of all, there's no evidence that I gave anything to CNN, and there's certainly no evidence that anything was ever doctored relating to R. Kelly. I've been involved in the R. Kelly case for a long period of time. I've been working closely with prosecutors. I'm very proud of my work in connection with that case and my representation of victims and whistleblowers. And as I predicted months ago, R. Kelly will rightfully die in prison. He's never going to get out. The guy's one of the largest serial predators on young girls in America in the last 20 to 30 years, in my view. So that's that. As it relates to the DVD that was turned over to law enforcement in connection with the Stormy Daniels case, I'm not at liberty to comment. I don't have a copy of that, and I don't know ultimately whether it will be released or not.
All right, if you want to give us a buzz, Michael Avenatti on the line, 257-5396. Again, that number to call, 702-257-5396. Our next caller is Jessica. Jessica, you're on with Michael Avenatti. Go ahead.
Hi, Michael. I also had a question about the R. Kelly case. Well, actually, two. One is, how soon do you think it'll be before Azriel and Joycelyn reunite with their family, or do you think they will? And two, how soon do you think it'll be before R. Kelly goes to trial?
Okay, thank you for the call, Jessica. Michael, go ahead.
Well, I think that Jocelyn will likely be reunited with her family sooner rather than Azriel, based on what I understand. I represent Azriel's parents, and I'm very proud to represent them. They're very solid people, and they care about their daughter, love their daughter very, very much, and they want the best for her. I do think they will be reunited within the next 90 days, I hope. I think it's going to be a long road for both of those girls to realize really what they've been through and what has happened to them. They have gone through emotionally quite a bit, and they really don't know what the truth is at this point because of the conditions that they've been subjected to by R. Kelly and his enablers. As it relates to when R. Kelly is going to go to trial, I do not think that he will stand trial first in Cook County, even though that was the first jurisdiction to charge him. I think it's more likely that he will face charges at the federal level in Chicago or New York first. And I'm going to predict that happens within the next 12 months.
All right. Again, if you want to be a part of this with Michael Avenatti and ask him a question, that number, 257-5396. Scott, you're next with Michael Avenatti. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. I always like when you guys are talking politics. Michael, we're about the same age, and I remember back in 1980 feeling sorry for, Jimmy Carter, thinking he was too nice of a guy. And the one thing I always get out of when you come on the show, being that I am a registered Democrat, is I have zero confidence, kind of like you say, that the Democrats are going to get dirty in the gutter and have somebody that will fight. That's the one thing I get out when you're on the show.
All right, Scott, thank you for that. And Michael, go ahead, because I agree with Scott. Michael says that all the time, and I agree with him. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, and Scott, I agree with you 100%. And, I don't know if it's maybe just the time frame in which, we grew up, but we've seen over the course of our lifetime, since 1980, we have consistently been subjected to Democratic candidates who were on the right side of issues. And we firmly believed they were on the right side of issues, but they got outplayed, outmaneuvered, and outfought by the Republicans. I mean, I can give you a litany of examples just off the top of my head. I mean, we can start with Willie Horton and Michael Dukakis against George Bush in 1988. Michael Dukakis should have won that race, and he got absolutely crushed by Willie Horton. The Willie Horton ad, and let's not forget who was involved with that. Roger Ailes was involved with that, who ultimately went on to found Fox News. And by the way, if you're not watching, I'll just give a plug, even though I have nothing to do with it. If you're not watching The Loudest Voice on Showtime about the beginnings of Fox News and what transpired,
Roger Ailes, it's great.
You should be. I mean, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, it's a great show, and I will say that Russell Crowe is unbelievable as Roger Ailes. But we saw it in 1988, and there's been numerous examples since then of the Democrats not getting down in the gutter, and they just get outfought on a national level on a consistent basis. And let me also say this: if you look at during our lifetime, I'm 48. During our lifetime, if you look at the Democrats that have won since Jimmy Carter, you have Bill Clinton, and a lot of people forget this, but Bill Clinton, look, he knew how to fight. He knew how to get down in the gutter. He knew how to trade shots. And as a result, that's how he was able to win in 19 92, and he was also able to win in 1996. A lot of people also forget this. Barack Obama, look, he wasn't a big fighter as president, but he was a fighter as a campaigner. In fact, a lot of people don't even know this, but I believe it was in his Senate race in Illinois, or in one of the early races for Barack Obama. He actually got into a fist fight during a parade with his opponent. Barack Obama did in the middle of the campaign. So, he too, when he had to get in the ring, knew to get in the ring. But the Democrats have got to bring it as it relates to the Republicans, and they especially have to bring it against a guy like Donald Trump, because you can say a lot of things about this guy, and I have said a lot of things, and I will say a lot of things, but you cannot say that he is not a fighter. He is a brawler. He's a no-holds fighter. He'll get down in the gutter. He has no bounds, and all he cares about is winning.
Michael, I have a question. You mentioned The Loudest Voice, which I have not seen. I started watching City on a Hill, which is outstanding. I recommend you watch that, by the way. It's not politics-oriented, but it's kind of like The Town in a TV show. Anyways, there's a movie coming out called The Hunt, and The Hunt is about a group of elitist, left-wing people that go out of their way to pursue and hunt the quote-unquote deplorable Make America Great supporters. Did you hear about that?
No, I haven't heard about it, but it sounds pretty disturbing.
It's beyond disturbing, and I wanted to see say something like that actually comes up and it gets traction, and a lot of people watch it. I mean, how bad could that be for the United States?
Oh, I think it's terrible. I mean, I think it's going to ratchet up the division in this country. It's going to draw the ire of people on the right that are already itching for a fight in many ways. And I think it'd be disgusting. I hope your description is not accurate. I don't have any reason to believe it isn't accurate, but I hope it's wrong, because that has no place in our society today on the right or the left. And I am very concerned, and I've said this before, I am incredibly concerned about where we're going, gentlemen, and what this country is going to look like if we don't have a unifying effort very, very quickly. I mean, we cannot continue down this path. It's going to tear this nation apart.
Yeah, it's basically the purge, but predicated on political parties.
That does sound pretty dangerous and disturbing, as Michael said. Let's take some more phone calls. If you want to be a part of the conversation, 257-5396. Let's go to Ed. Ed, you're on with Michael Avenatti. Go ahead.
Yes, California passed a law, and they said that people had firearms that had so-called bullet buttons. I don't know whether that's detachable magazine, and there are 2 or 3 million of those in California. And all they had to do is go to the internet, put in their name, address, make and model, and serial number of the firearm, and only 70,000 people did. So, 400 million guns. I mean, I think it's just like alcohol and gambling and prostitution and pornography. If you got a bunch of people that want something, I mean, good luck at getting rid of it.
All right, Michael, go ahead and respond to that.
Well, I don't think we're going to be able to get rid of guns, as I mentioned earlier. But that doesn't mean there's certain precautions that we shouldn't take. And look, I mean, why is it that when you go out and purchase a car, you have to register the car? I mean, I don't see a lot of people protesting that car registration is onerous and we shouldn't have to register cars. What's the big deal about registering your firearm or having a license, a state-issued license to operate your firearm? You got to have a license to operate a vehicle. I mean, why is that onerous? I don't get it. I mean, look, I'm not a firearm owner, but I've certainly shot firearms in the past. I have a lot of friends that have a number of firearms. They like to go hunting and the like. I don't hold that against them. God bless them. But why is it so onerous to have to register your firearm and have a validly issued license in order to operate one?
I agree. I agree 100%. Look, we need comprehensive background checks. There's no doubt about it. Republicans, Democrats need to get together and get this thing done. I think Mitch McConnell has been a huge problem, as many other Republicans have been as well. But, I don't know. Michael, the way I feel is after the Connecticut shooting, when you've got a bunch of 6- and 7-year-old kids that lose their life and nothing is done after that, I think to myself, what makes people think that anything is going to change now? I guess that's a negative way of feeling, but that's the way I feel, Michael. I just have no confidence in some of our politicians, particularly people on the right, in getting anything done. Am I wrong in thinking that way?
No, I agree 100%. And, I'm worried that a week from now, everyone's going to go back to their lives, and these massacres in Dayton and down in El Paso will be a thing of the past.
Right.
And people will just go on about their lives. I mean, look, gentlemen, the only way this is going to happen is if we have somebody at the top, whether it's the top of the Senate or the top of the House or the top of the White House or all of the above, that really make this a priority and are willing to put it on the line and go around the country and talk about how important this is day in and day out. We've got to have somebody that's willing to expend the political capital and take the chance to make this happen. Otherwise, our kids and our brothers and our mothers and our fathers are going to continue to get killed on our streets for no reason.
Only got a couple more minutes here with Michael Avenatti, so I'm going to try to squeeze in a few more calls here at 257-5396. Let's go to Tim. Tim, you're on with Michael. Go ahead.
Yeah, hey, thanks, guys. I had more of a legal type question for Michael. Michael, there's a lot of social media posts of you with the CBS anchor from Miami. Is that you with her? And can people really get sued for doing that? Because I've been pushing that picture a lot, and I don't want to get sued, but I do want to kind of embarrass you.
Okay, well, hold on a second. Tim, you call up to a radio show. We have Michael Avenatti on the line. We have mass shootings over the weekend. People are dying. We're talking about serious issues. And you decide to call up, and this is type of the buffoonery. I mean, why don't you get a life? Tim, are you still there, or did you hang up like a coward? Why don't you get a life? No. I'm asking you a direct question. Why don't you get a life? Don't you have anything better to do with your time?
Tim, that sounds like a pretty valid question considering what just took place.
All right, Tim, you are an absolute clown. Get a life. The number to call, 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's try to have a little fun here before we take a few more calls. Michael, what do you think are the chances that Donald Trump Jr. will accept your invitation to get into the ring with him 3 rounds, Christmas Eve, Las Vegas? Is there any chance? Have you heard from anybody on the right that wants this fight to happen? Has anybody reached out to you of significance that you can tell us?
Well, a number of people on the right have reached out. I mean, I think a lot of his supporters would like to see it happen because they believe that, that he would, that he'd be successful in the fight. But I haven't heard anything from him. I think the chances are very, very slim because he knows he'd be embarrassed. Look, I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think we'd raise a lot of money. Maybe more than $10 million for charity. I've said that all the money, as far as I'm concerned, can go to charity. I think it'd be great. I think it'd be an event. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think we'd raise a lot of money for charity. And I think there'd be a lot of people on the right, a lot of people on the left that would tune in and would be interested in it. But I don't think he's going to do it. He's a keyboard warrior. I mean, this is a guy, this is one of America's great cowards.
Yeah,
I think the way that we have to get him to accept this bout is if we can just build some serious hype. And that's what we have to do. If he has enough people saying, and calling him a coward, questioning his toughness, questioning his manlyhood more or less, I think that he may consider it. But it's going to take a lot of effort from us from building that hype.
Well, I've heard his manlyhood has already been attacked. Just ask Kimberly Guilfoyle. Okay, that was a bad joke. All right, let's take another call at 257-5396. Let's go to BC. BC, you're on with Michael Avenatti. Go ahead.
I just wanted to respond to the lawyer's recommendation about getting a license to own a gun. I mean, it's pathetic. The Second Amendment is the whole basis why you don't need to get a license from the state, because the whole reason to have the Second Amendment and own rifles and guns is to protect you from the state itself.
Michael, what do you say to that?
Well, I don't think there's anything in the Second Amendment that would preclude the state from requiring a basic license in order to operate a firearm. We're not talking about an onerous requirement. We're talking about basic firearm training. And I'm assuming that the call I'm assuming he has a number of firearms, and I'm assuming that he's well trained in operating those firearms. I'm going to assume that. So there should be no problem with getting a license that shows that you know what you're doing, that you know how to operate it. We're not talking about some grand approval process. We're talking about a very basic requirement to operate an incredibly dangerous weapon. I mean, anyone that has ever shot a firearm or a handgun knows how easy it is to pull that trigger and knows how easy it is to take someone's life.
No question. No question. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that lost their lives over the weekend because of that. Well, Michael, we're really excited. You know, we're moving this show 9 a.m. to noon starting on Monday, and we couldn't be more happy that you're going to be a part of our first show, our expansion of this show, and you're going to be joining us in studio this Monday. So we really do appreciate that, man. It's going to be a lot of fun.
No, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm sure that we'll be able to fill those first 3 hours.
Yeah.
And it sounds like we'll have some fireworks as well, so I'm looking forward to it.
Michael, we know how busy you are. We know you got a lot going on, and we always appreciate it when you join us every week. Can't wait to catch up with you in studio on Monday, my friend. Thank you so much for your time and for your insight. We appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we'll see what other KKK Grand Wizards support Tucker in the coming days. I wish him all the best.
I wish we could find somebody.
That was such a bad look for him.
I wish we could just find Tucker Carlson's cell phone number from somebody and just call him in the middle of the show. We'll work on that, Michael. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, Michael, and we'll see you on Monday.
Thanks a lot, Michael.
All right, gents.
All right, there you go. Michael Avenatti. He will be joining us in studio this Monday, 9 a.m. to noon. Our show is expanding 1 hour, JD, if you haven't already heard. I don't know if you have, but I think you know.
Yeah,
right?
that's the dirty rumor.
The rumor. Yeah, Monday, show's expanding 1 hour. Listen, we're really excited. When I started this up with JD Sharp, you know, we started off doing a weekly show here. Then we expanded, and it was a bit expansion to 5 days a week, 1 hour. Then we expanded the show to 2 hours. Not only are we now doing 3 hours a day starting on Monday, but in a great time slot. We love it. 9 a.m. to noon. It's going to be a lot of fun. Listen, we're going to have a lot of sports and entertainment involved in this show. Speaking of entertainment.
Are you sure about that?
Absolutely.
We haven't discussed sports in at least 6 months.
Well, there's been a lot going on in the world of news and politics. JD, this is going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. Speaking of entertainment, Billy Bob Thornton will be joining us on the show tomorrow. This is going to be so much fun. So he'll be joining us, as well as Jerry Colangelo, general manager of USA Basketball. Huge show lined up for you tomorrow. Maybe we will throw a little bit of sports in there tomorrow. We'll work on that. For JD Sharp.
Hey, do not make any promises you can't keep, my friend.
I will. I will make that promise. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Ken Thompson coming up next.